I just had to say something. I had to say something. I ruined everything. Like, how? Yeah, simping for Dawn and Fulgrim. I get you. I'm sorry, guys. I'm gonna wait like a minute to let everyone get in here. Once they realize that there's a new stream. I cannot believe I've had to make a new stream. We were only like 26 minutes into this. That was an hour-long stream. I done hecked up. But let's wait for the others to get back so I can apologize. And be like, yo, guys. I done did a heck. Done did a heck. I cannot believe I did that. I'm such a dumbass. Like, I'm literally so dumb. I don't want people to miss the story because I ruin things. So, like, I'll wait till I get to about 5, because there was, like, at least 5 each chatting. Clearly, you've angered the Omnissiah. Clearly. Don't just disappear. I know! I didn't mean to. So it turned out it disconnected my YouTube from my OBS, which is probably why I was getting the warning sign throughout the entire stream. It was probably threatening to do that the entire time. And that's probably why I didn't realize. But yes, do come back. I'll give everyone about 2-3 minutes, give them a chance to get back in here, because this is my fault, not theirs. I do acknowledge my mistakes. I'm very, very sorry about that. Everyone. Truly, truly sorry. It was indeed my B. But you know what? Like, maybe I did just anger the Emp, and like, let's be honest, if he killed the stream, we should all hate the Emperor and we should all disappear from the Emperor, you know? I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Why would we follow the Emperor if he kills our fun stream time? You know? Y'all thinking about that? Y'all thinking we should all abandon the Emperor? Because I am. I am. I'm definitely thinking we should abandon the Emperor. I'm always thinking we should abandon the Emperor, though. But yeah, sorry! I can't believe I did that. I done hacked. Done hacked. Alright, I've just created a new thumbnail. We're good to go. Y'all had the time till I finish my thumbnails. Loads, bolt pistol, let's go. The Emperor smited your heresy. Listen here, Dan. If the Emperor smited me every time I was heretical, we'd be fucked. Okay? Y'all are here, so let's go.
Crushing the stormtrooper's fingers into the trigger guard. The man screamed. Fulcron pivoted, the gun still spewing a stitched line of energy. The Hellgun's fire hit the next 2 stormtroopers at point-blank range, burning through flesh and armour. With swift delicacy, the Space Marine looped an arm around the screaming man and gripped the webbing belt of grenades across his chest.
He can keep gathering his evidence.
I was a pace from the edge of the shield dome when I realised what was about to happen. Fulcron turned and threw the screaming man at the rest of the stormtrooper squad. The force of the throw broke the man's back with a sharp crack. I could see the pins of the grenades glinting in Fulcron's fingers. The dead man hit the platform in front of his comrades and exploded. The blast...
Did he just casually go, and he exploded? Y'all just gonna step over the fact that you exploded a dude? Okay, I'm down.
Sheared through the rest of the squad in an expanding sphere of shrapnel. Fragments of metal, flesh and bone pattered off my armour. I could see Fulcron and his storm-coated henchmen through the pall of smoke and dust. They were running. "Target is moving!" I shouted across the Vox. "Close and eliminate!" I fired. plasma burning ionized trails through the dust cloud. I ran after the two figures. Behind me, the rest of the strike force advanced. I reached the edge of the dust cloud. The fleeing pair were at the edge of the platform. Behind them, the city burned. They turned and looked back at the force running past the bloody remains of Drake and his squad. They ran without looking at Fokron's sword, left forgotten on the ground. The plasma charge, concealed in the blade, detonated.
What's the all-guardsman party? Do tell.
Unfolding into a glowing sphere of sun-hot energy. I felt the heat through the skin of my armour as the blast tossed me into the air and slammed me into the paving. Warning chimes sounded in my ears as my armour's systems sensed damage. Something wet moved in my chest as I sucked in a breath and found I was alive. For a few seconds, I could see nothing. I tried to raise my head and found that my vision was smeared with blood. I blinked until I could see. Bright light shone from behind me, where the sphere of plasma still burned. Fokron stood, his blue armour black in the glare of the plasma bloom. I pulled myself to my feet with a flare of pain and a grind of servos from inside my armour. My hammer was gone, scattered across the platform by the explosion. Two stormtroopers, who had been close beside me, began to haul themselves up. Fokron shot them before they could stand, the guttural bark of the bolt pistol almost lost in the sound of the battle raging in the city. I was standing, my plasma pistol whining in my hand as it focused its power. The muzzle of Fokron's pistol pointed directly at me.
Is the stylized summary of someone's experience playing as a 40k RPG where they decided to play as all guardsmen. Ooh, that sounds interesting. I like that. That sounds cool.
A dark circle ready to breathe fire. A Valkyrie crested the edge of the platform with a wash of downdraft. Its hull was painted in the storm grey of Battle Fleet Hakuba. I could see the worn kill marks and unit tags under the cockpit. For an instant I expected it to open up with its chain weapon, for it to rake Fokron and his companion with fire. Then it spun, drifting down until its open side doors were level with the platform. A crewman in an Imperial Navy uniform reached down to help the storm-coated figure into the side door. Fokron vaulted after, and the Valkyrie swooped away. I fancied that the Alpha Legionary was looking at me with his emerald eyes until the craft was lost amongst the hundreds of others that swarmed above the dying city. I breathed, letting pain and frustrated anger spill out. Something did not fit. It had seemed as if Fokron had anticipated our attack.
So, dumb question maybe. Is Fokron Alpha Legion? I think they mix modules. Oh. Only war is the IG RPG. That's cool. So, because this is, I believe this is about the Inquisition and Alpharius. Well, the Alpha Legion. So, I'm assuming he's someone with them. I don't know, they talk more about, like, Alpharius and Omega in the lore that I don't really know many of the others, to be fair.
That he had waited for it to come so that he could slaughter us. No, it was not just a slaughter. It was a demonstration of superiority. I can defeat you in 1,000 ways.
I'm a Saiga!
I can kill you as I choose, it said. Then this sudden retreat. It did not fit. His forces were being overwhelmed, the city filling with thousands of Imperial troops. But then why not withdraw as soon as this became clear? Unless... I suddenly felt cold, as if ice had formed inside my armour.
So, first, it was telling the story about his mate, and she was like, you're having too much fun. And to be fair, I was having a lot of fun in chat. But first he was telling the story about his mate who sacrificed her life for him. And then they were basically hunting Falcon and throwing bodies that were exploding and stuff. That's the general gist of things. It's been very, like... They interrogated an Alpha Legion who had took over, and he was like, the white eyes and all this stuff.
I thumbed my voxeling, breaking through clearance ciphers until the voice of the invasion's commanding officer spoke into my ear. General Barricade had a thick voice that spoke of his ample waist and heavy jowls. He was no fool, though. "Lord Inquisitor," he said, his voice chopped by static. "General, all troops are to be withdrawn from the city immediately." There was a pause, and I can imagine Barricade staring incredulously at the Vox speaker in the Strategium aboard an orbiting battleship. "Lord," he began, speaking carefully, "if I may ask—" He never finished, because at that moment Focron answered the unspoken question. As the words left Barricade's lips, the city's plasma reactors, promethium stores, and chemical refineries exploded. Across the city, glowing clouds rose into the sky, their tops broadening and flattening as they met the upper air currents. The shockwaves broke buildings into razor-sharp fragments and clouds of dust. An instant later, concentric waves of fire and burning gas swept.
Alright, come on. They keep going. And the waves of fire. Like, is no one else hearing that? Like, I swear they were listening to a fucking Ring of Fire while they were, like, writing the story. Because occasionally it's just like, and the rings of fire
Swept through the streets. The sound and shock wave reached me in seconds, flipping me through the air with a bellow of noise. I must have hit the ground, but I never felt it. The blast wave had already pulled me down into darkness. Later, while I healed, I was told that tens of thousands of Imperial troops had been killed, hundreds of thousands more renegades, and millions of civilians burned to nothing or crushed under rubble. The rebellion died, but the Imperium had taken a great wound, and nothing was left but charred ruins. Only the Onyx Palace had survived. Its plasma reactors had not been overloaded, and that had saved my life. When I was told this, my first thought was that Focron had wanted someone to survive, to witness him rip another bloody chunk from the flesh of the Imperium.
I generally like the Border Prince as a narrator. I think John French is a country toss of an author. What's a country toss? He is responsible for this specific short by John French.
Then I thought again of the dark mouth of Focron's bolt pistol and the death that he had withheld. No, I thought, he did not want just anyone to witness his victory. He had chosen me to witness it. To this day, I do not know why. A year ago. The ship drifted closer. Through the polished armor glass of the viewport, I could see its crippled engines bleed glowing vapor.
He's doing this as like a series of events of him like trying to track down the Alpha Legion and losing his friend, for him to interrogate someone to try and hunt down the Alpha Legions that were in their own party. Then they were like in the war with them, and now it's like a year later. So I think it's just a progression story through time.
Into the vacuum. It was a small vessel, barely large enough to be warp-capable, and typical of the cutters used by traders and smugglers who existed on the fringes of the Imperium. The ship I stood on was massive by comparison, layered with armour and weapons bastions. It was a Predator Leviathan closing on a minnow. The Unbreakable Might was an Armageddon-class battlecruiser, and mounted enough firepower to break other warships into glowing debris. Against the nameless Clipper, it had barely needed to use a fraction of its might. A single precise land strike had burned the smallest ship's plasma engines to ruin and left it to coast on unpowered. I turned from the view with a clicking purr of augmatics, my eyes focused on Admiral Valkyrian from beneath the cowl of my crimson robe. He was rake-thin, the metal flexes of command augmentation hanging from his grey-skinned skull in a tangled spill down the back of his gold-frogged uniform. "Launch a boarding party, Admiral," I said. Valkyrian pursed his colourless lips but nodded. "As you wish, my lord." He turned to give an order to a hovering officer. "And, Admiral," he turned back, "they are to observe maximum caution." "Yes, my lord." He gave a short bow. I could tell he resented my commandeering his command and its fleet.
How come he thinks everyone hates him? I think this guy has a complex. He was like the girl who saved his life hates him. This guy hates him. Failed to excite me, which sucks because he's done a lot of the Imperial Fist and Dawn content available. It seems pretty good so far. And hey, Ricky!
Hunting smuggler vessels and pirates while war washed across star systems must have galled him. Part of me was faintly amused by watching his pride war with fear of the Inquisition. The rest of me cared nothing for what he felt. I will meet the boarding team personally upon their return, I told him. Valkyrin gave another curt bow in acknowledgement and stalked away, hissing orders at subordinates. I turned back to watch our latest prey draw closer, my eyes wearing as they focused. They had rebuilt me after Hespatia. My eyes and face were gone, replaced by blue-lensed augmetics and a mask of twisted scar tissue fused into a ceramic woven skull. My left leg and a portion of my torso had been so mangled that they had been replaced. Ceramide plating, organ grafting, and a leg of mechanized brass meant that I still lived and walked, even if it was with a bent back and...
You know what? I actually have been enjoying the storytelling of this. I think a lot of it's good, but I think it is a bit jarring how it like goes through the years. But I understand its use and why it's being implemented in a short story. I just feel like there needs to be a comfier transition.
The stutter of gears and pistons. For a while, after the disaster of the Hespatian attack, I thought of my injuries as a penance for my lack of foresight, a price for ignorance written forever into my body. Since that lesson, I had done much to address my failing. The war against the rebel worlds had grown many times over, sucking in armies and resources from across many star systems. The Imperium was no longer fighting a war of containment, but a crusade of retribution. Under my authority and that of the Adeptus Terra, it was named the Ephesian Persecution. I had watched our forces struggle for decades as more and more worlds had fallen to rebellion and the influence of the Dark Gods.
I think Warhammer's the only universe where it would be scary for a fan to want to live in. I think there's a lot of things that it would be scary if a fan wanted to live in. But definitely this is on the list. This is on the list. But like, Slaanesh is here, so like maybe.
It was a war we were losing because we were fighting an enemy for whom lies were both a weapon and a shield. Understanding that enemy had been my work in the decades since Hespatia burned. I had expanded great energy in tracking down information on the Alpha Legion, from the sealed reports of Inquisitor Gyriax to half-understood accounts from the dawn of the Imperium. I had reviewed them all. I knew my enemy. I knew their nature, their preferred forms of warfare and their weaknesses. Sometimes I thought I knew them better than I knew myself. Their symbol was the Hydra, a many-headed beast, from legends born in mankind's earliest days. It was both a mark of their warrior brotherhood and a statement of methodology. To fight the Alpha Legion was to fight a many-headed beast that would twist in your grasp. As soon as you thought you had a part pinned, another unseen part would strike. Should you cut off one head, two would grow to replace it.
Hey, Adam! I'm so sorry. You missed... Right, you came into my stream because I saw the comments, by the way, of you guys in my stream after it ended. My stream was actually ended when you showed up last time. I got cancelled on Twitter. I'll DM you. Don't worry about it. But I'm glad you're here. It's a nice little story time. We're just enjoying a book based off the Alpha Legion, which is headed by Alpharius. But yeah, I'll DM you about the Twitter stuff.
They wove secrets and lies about themselves, hoping to baffle and confuse their enemies. So
you'd go straight to the Tau? No way. No way. Star Wars fan, I want to be a Jedi. Star Trek fan, I want to be a Star Fleet captain. 40k fans, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. I'm okay. Great. Yeah, bye.
Subterfuge, espionage, ambush, and the untamable tangle of guerrilla warfare were their specialities. Wielded through networks of corrupted followers, infiltrators, spies, and, on occasion, their own martial skill. They were wrapped in the corruption of chaos, steeped in betrayal and bitterness ever since their Primarch and Legion had betrayed mankind 10 millennia before. The enemy I faced now was but a single scion of that heretic brood, but no less formidable for that. Fulcrum was a name that had infiltrated every theatre of the Ephesian persecution like a silent, coiling serpent. I knew that even before we had learnt his name, he had seeded a dozen worlds with insurgent ideologies.
Booksit! Welcome in, Booksit. Go to Tau to ride a mechs. That's a fair point. As much as I like the other factions, more I'd be very much to not die or break my back in a Factorium. That's fair. Yeah, no, oh shit. Are you serious? They need to get that shit sorted. That's ridiculous. Yes, I can't wait for you to come on. We really need to catch up. It's been wild, Adam. It's been wild. But no, you hadn't just missed me. I literally ended the stream, but the broadcast didn't end, so it was still telling everyone I was live for like 2 hours. When I finally came back to my computer after like having my shit go like over and over and over. Stop voting no. Just don't vote the stream, Alpaca. Stern-assed. After having my like phone going ding 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 as I got cancelled on Twitter. No, alright, then don't. Fuck you. So yeah, no, it was like it was telling me I was offline, but it was still telling people I was live because for some reason it hadn't ended the broadcast. But yeah, my phone was literally like, as Alpaca says, ding 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 ding. It was fucking like the worst feeling. Adam, please come to my house. Please. You say things, you do say things. But I'll DM you.
And built up control over witch cults and heretic sects. Now he moved from warzone to warzone, plunging worlds into rebellion, corrupting our forces and punishing the Imperium for every victory. The Ephesian atrocity and the burning of Aspatia were just two amongst the subtle and devastating attacks he had made on the Imperium. Throughout his coiling dance of destruction, he had stayed out of my grasp, a shadow opponent locked in a duel with me across dozens of worlds.
That would be fucking hilarious, Alpaca.
Beyond the reflective layer of armor glass, a shuttle boosted towards the crippled ship on trails of orange flame. Rather than follow Fulcron's trail, I had decided to attack him where he was most vulnerable, his transportation. He had no fleet of warships, for he did not take planets by orbital invasion or the threat of bombardment. He took worlds from within, moving from one to another unseen. That implied that he moved using pirate or smuggler craft, small ships that could pass unnoticed and unremarked through the wild borderlands of the subsector. A scattered task force of Imperial ships had tracked and boarded 19 vessels so far with no result. The ship I watched would be the 20th. 2 hours later, I stood amidst the Promethean stink and the semi-ordered chaos of one of the Unbreakable Might's main landing bays. Bright light flooded the cathedral-like space, gleaming off the hulls of lighters, shuttles and landing craft. Figures moved over them, working on the mechanical guts exposed under servicing plates.
It would be funny. Happy Hippo Day. Minecraft is just a game, IKEA. You build your own game. Damn. Booksit just like ruined my life with that statement. It like Minecraft is a build your own game.
I stood with Valkyrin and a guard of 20 armsmen, their bronzed void.
By the way, 2 of y'all lied. I've only got 6 likes on this stream. 2 of y'all lying. You didn't upvote the stream.
Armor reflecting the bright light. The Admiral stood a few paces away, consulting with 2 of his attending officers. The away team had reported that the vessel appeared to be nothing but a smuggler, crewed by deserters and outlanders. They had found a cargo of illegal ore destined for some pirate haven out in the Halo margins. The Lexa mechanic who had accompanied them had drained the smuggler ship's data reservoirs for later analysis. As on the 19 previous occasions, no connection with Fulcron or his shadow network appeared to exist. Still, I wanted to meet the boarding party on their return, to search their accounts for details that they might have failed to report. Once that was done, the smuggler's ship would be blasted into molten slag. The armoured shuttle glided into...
Right, go on, Alpaca. Tell me I'm a molten slag. I know you're going to. Isno did recommend this, but they're not here, unfortunately. Until you realise 2 pieces are missing. Imagine if IKEA sold guns. No. No. I only paused because I knew. America! But it's Swedish. Is that if the Swedish take over America? You gotta build your own gun. People would do that. People would so do that for cheap guns.
...into the dock, its passive anti-gravity field filling the air with an ionised tang. It settled onto the deck with a hiss of hydraulics and a creak of ice-cold metal. The shuttle was a blunt block of grey armour, the size of a mass ground hauler. Its surface pitted and scored by atmospheric translation. Blast shields covered the armour glass of its cockpit. I heard the echoes of Vox chatter between the pilots and the deck crew as they moved in to attach power lines and data cables. The ramp under the chin of the shuttle hinged open, revealing a dark space inside. Valentines and the armsman looked towards it, expecting the boarding team to appear from the gloom. Something was wrong. I reached for the plasma pistol at my waist, my hand closing on the worn metal of the grip at the same moment that the docking bay went dark. Complete blackness enfolded us. For an instant there was silence, and then voices rose in confusion. The pistol was in my hand, its charge coils glowing as it built power with a piercing whine.
I'm sure that's already a thing somewhere. It's gotta be. 100%. Fetches Flemish. You 3D printed a crossbow? Wouldn't surprise me. IKEA brand crossbows. Liam, sounds great. It would have a really weird name though. It would. What would a build your own IKEA gun be called? Get your answers in. And I knew, see, Alpaca, this is why I paused for molten slag. I knew you were going to call me something. Go on, call me a cockpit.
In the direction of the shuttle, 2 eyes glowed suddenly green. There was a motorized growl as a chain weapon gunned to life. And then, the shooting started. Our armsmen guard opened up, shotgun muzzles flaring as they fired into the dark. The noise was like a ragged, rolling bellow. In the jagged light of muzzle flare, I saw my enemy standing on the ramp of the shuttle. His armour was dark, mottled by patterns of scales. In one hand he held a toothed axe, in the other a bolt pistol. He stood still for a moment, as the shot rattled from his warplate, looking at us with glowing green eyes. Behind him stood a figure in a silver mask and storm coat. In that brief moment, I thought that the empty eyes in the silver face were looking into mine. The armsmen had closed ranks around Valentines and I, forming a deep circle of bronze armour. I aimed and fired, but Fulcrum was already gone, moving through muzzle flash, a whirlwind of slaughter caught through blinked instants.
Pit the cock against another cock. Since when were we talking dirty? Alpaca call me a cockpit.
He hit the first armsman with a downward blow. I heard the scream of motorized teeth meeting metal and flesh. He was 2 strides nearer, an arc of dismembered dead at his feet. I heard a yelp of fear close by, recognizing the Admiral's voice by its tone. The bolt pistol flared and roared, 3 armsmen dying in an oily flash of light. He was 3 strides away. There was a smell of offal and meat in my nose. Besides me, I heard Valentines turn to run and thud to the deck, as his feet slipped on something slick and soft. The plasma pistol whined in my hand. I raised my pistol, lightning dancing across its charged coils. Fulcrum was above me, chain axe raised, scale-patterned armour glistening with blood. He brought the axe down in a diagonal cut. I pulled the trigger, and plasma flared from the barrel of my pistol.
Motorized teeth? I mean, I think it means, like, not real teeth, but, like, you know, the things that are, like, on chainsaws. Monocoque? I think Monocoque would be a good name. Remember that episode where the Dell called Rodney a dipstick? You remember that episode where you were a dipstick? There's lots of car parts that sound dirty if you're imagining it enough. Tailpipe. Oh my god, don't start doing dirty names of cars. This is what we've become. This is what we've become: tailpipes and monocoques and cockpits. I just imagined a space marine with metal teeth moving on their own. No, it's like on the side of a chainsaw. They're called teeth.
I missed. But the shot saved my life. Jerking aside to avoid my shot,
I'm going to say monocoque because I'm not saying monocoque.
Fulcrum missed his target.
He missed!
The teeth of the chain axe met my gun arm just below the elbow, the backswing slicing through Valkarin as he tried to stand. The lights came on as shock hit me. Blood was spilling from the chewed stump of my arm. I staggered a step before my legs gave way and I collapsed to the floor in a clicking whir of gears. People moved, shouting. I was aware of a lot of weapons surrounding me very quickly. I looked around, trying to focus through a pale fog that seemed to be floating across my vision. Blood glistened under the bright lights. The ramp of the shuttle was still open. Later, I would find out that none of its crew or the boarding party had returned from the smuggler ship. The voices in the vox chatter and reports had been perfect mimicry.
If it helps, picture the Lancer from Gears. True. Big End. Oh my god. Like, I don't want to hear about people's big end right now.
Of Folkron and the man in the silver mask, there was no sign. 1 month ago. The War Council overseeing the Ephesian persecution gathered on board the Unbreakable Might. Generals, war savants, vice-admirals, magi, bishops militant, palatines, commissar lords, and captains of the Adeptus Astartes all came to my call. The stratagem of the battlecruiser was a 200 paces wide circular chamber of raked seats carved from granite. I waited at the centre, under the eyes of the gathering worthies, and watched. They came in small groups, looking for faces they knew, judging where it was their right to sit, who they had to avoid and who they had to greet.
So, a Subaru did make a car called an STI. At least your car isn't an STI, fucking hell. Whew.
It was like watching the shifting gears of imperial politics and power play out in miniature. There, a Spartian war chief in burnished half-plate and white fur cloak, trailed by a clutch of tactical advisers. Here, a Sycana lord, a withered white face within a hood of cables, sat next to a spindle-limbed woman in carmine robes, the cog skull of the Adeptus Mechanicus etched on the brass of her domino mask. Servo skulls moved above the assembling throng, scanning, recording, sniffing the air for threats and spreading incense in thick breaths. Amongst the crowd I saw some of my own kind, inquisitors or their representatives, moving amongst the rest like
Y'all, Adam, you are going to make this chat act up throwing in crankshafts. Holy fuck.
imperious masters or remaining still and silent on the edges.
Tail
I had
light?
invited none of them, but they came anyway.
If you're into
my
that.
reputation enough to bring them. Some even called me Lord Inquisitor. Rank within the Inquisition is a complex matter. No formal structure exists amongst this shadow hand of the Imperium that answers to no one but the will of the Emperor. Lordship is a matter of respect, a title of acknowledgement granted by peers to one who has earned it by the power of their deeds. My war against Folkron had pulled respect and renown to me like a flame gathers insects. As the greatest masters of war in this volume of space gathered at my call, I could see why some might call me Lord. I sat on a high-backed chair at the centre of the chamber. A symbolic hammer rested beneath my left hand, my right on the black iron of the chair's arm, fingers of polished chrome clicking softly on the dark metal. It had been a year since I had lost my right arm in the ambush that had killed Admiral Valkarin, and
I don't think I can look at a car the same again. Oh my god, mufflers? Are we really getting into this? I don't appreciate the car, so my car hates me when how often I need new parts. There's a long history of auto engineering and sexual deviance. Men in sheds. Oh my god. Speaking of fortunate naming choices, there is an Australian research and space exploration too. We all know that's ass. But I think they picked that. I think Australians, if anyone was going to have picked that, ass would have been picked by an Australian. Of course, for children, we buy tiny plastic toys to colour in and play games. Yeah, you know what? Live and let live. Probably starts looking at car magazines, we all know why. Adam was teaching me about cars. Adam's taught me about cars for a long time. What do you mean? It's not the Slaneshi in me, it's just an interest.
And nearly claimed my life. The bionic replacement still ached with phantom pain. In that year, I had not been idle. Following his attempt on my life, Fokron had simply vanished. No trace of him could be found on the ship or on the smuggler vessel. This and the sudden loss of light at the moment of attack could only mean that his network of traitors extended deeper and higher in our forces than I had considered possible. Trusted acolytes and agents of my own had gone to work, and now I gathered together the leaders of the persecution to share what I had found. A few knew what was about to happen, most did not. I watched as black-visored troopers sealed the doors to the chamber and waited for the grumble of conversation to fade. When it had, I stood. "There is much to speak of," I said, my voice carrying up the tiered seats. I saw some shift at the lack of formal greeting or...
Hey, get out of my head, please, no. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Remember, said Lightning McQueen is chatting girl cars, they talk about how curvy they are. Ka-chow!
Acknowledgement of the honour and position of those gathered here. I let myself smile at the thought. But first, there is a matter that must be dealt with. I gave a slight nod as if to emphasise the point, and those waiting for that signal acted as one. Even though I was prepared for it, the psychic shockwave made me stagger. On the tiered seats, a dozen figures convulsed as telepathic and telekinetic power enfolded them in a vice-like grip. I felt an oily static charge play over my skin. There was a sound like wind rustling through high grass. The needle slivers hit the convulsing men and women, and one by one they went still as the sedatives overrode nerve impulses. There was an instant of shocked silence. "Do not move!" I shouted, as the black...
Yo! Thank you for following me on Twitch! Let's go!
Black-visored troopers moved through the crowd. They clustered around each of the stricken figures. Null collars and mono-wire bindings were slipped over necks and limbs, and the bound figures were dragged across the stone floor like...
I'm in me mum's car. Vroom vroom. Get out me car! Aww. I just want a shed to sit in and smoke weed and listen to podcasts. Screw sheds, I own a house. Liam, I'm coming to live with you then. It sounds like a great place.
Sacks of grain. The shock in the rest of the crowd was palpable. They had just seen a dozen of their senior peers, men and women of power and distinction, overcome and dragged away. You could almost feel the thought forming in all their minds. Traitors in our midst. The pale-faced Saikana lord nodded to me, and I favoured him with a low bow of thanks. A murmur of anger and fear began to build in the chamber. "Our enemy is among us." I raised my hammer up and brought its adamantine.
Get off my Twitch, alpaca! Get off Twitch.
Head down on the granite floor.
I was like in the story, in the zone, and then you just like, beep beep, I'm a Jeep. But yeah, Liam, why not both? But alpaca, I was like straight up like in the story, and then suddenly I started hearing your song.
Silence gathered in the wake of the fading blow. It walks amongst us, wearing faces of loyalty. My voice was soft, but it carried in the still air. Our enemy has used our strength against us, directed us into traps, mired us in blood, and shackled our strength with lies. A year ago, on this ship, that enemy came close to ending my life with his own hand. That such a thing was possible is a testament to his ability and audacity. I paused, looking around at the faces watching me, waiting to see what would come next. But I survived, and in that attempt I exposed the extent of the treachery within our forces. I pointed to the dozen spaces on the tiered seats. Today, I have removed the heads of the Hydra from among us.
Among Us. I didn't recognize. Is that mine? I didn't recognize it. I thought mine was Katy Perry. You're such a liar. That's the first step of shed ownership. Acquire a house to put the shed in the garden of. You know what? I agree with you. I agree with you. You can't have a shed without a house. By Lady Gaga, you're a liar. The Alpha Legion was the imposter all along. I know. There's an Among Us in the crash. Oh, just buy land. Alpaca, you want to buy me some land? We'll build a place. If you want to like pay for the land, and then we'll build a house on it. Deal. You can live with us. Live in a shed. We'll live in a shed. Need a house for the winter. Fair point. I need radios.
I paused as murmurs ran through the audience. The traitors had been difficult to find without arousing their suspicion. It had been delicate work to find them, and more delicate still to prepare to remove them in a single instant. The 12 taken in the chamber had been the most senior, the most highly placed of Fokron's agents and puppets. Some, no doubt, had not known what end they served. Others, I was sure, were willing traitors. There had been generals amongst them, senior Munitorum staff, an astropath, a confessor, and even an interrogator. At the moment they had been taken, parallel operations had gone into action throughout the persecution forces, cutting the corruption out from among us. Most of the infiltrators would be killed, but many would be taken and broken until their secrets flowed from them, like blood taken from a vein.
They're just going to interrogate some people? I was dead, but I survived. A dawn thing to say, truly. Winter doesn't exist anymore? You can't say that. We as a society have evolved past the need for winter. I live in the UK, not a chance. Buying land as millennials, what are you smoking? Because I want some. True. Still does round our way, definitely does. If I could buy land in Portugal, then I could live in a shed happily. You know what? Same. As long as it has internet access.
The enemy has blinded us and led us by the hand like children. But at this moment, he also has handed us weapons with which to destroy him. Knowledge is our weapon, and from the traitors who walked among us, we will gain knowledge. I stood and picked the hammer up, its head at my feet, the pommel resting under my hands. And with that knowledge, this persecution will cut the ground from under the feet of our enemy. We will wound and hound him until he crawls to his last refuge. And when he is crippled and bleeding, I shall take the last head of this Hydra. 12 hours ago. 100 warships came to bear witness to our victory.
Knowledge is our weapon, hits him with a book. That's the best way to do it. That's the best way to show someone that knowledge is power. Because I'm telling you now, your bare fist, not as strong as a bare buck fist, you know what I mean? Just like, pah, with a book. Is it always warm in Minecraft? No. Amoongus.
They ringed the jagged space fortress, their guns flaring as they hammered it with fire. The Hydra's eye turned in its orbit around the dead world like a prize fighter, too dazed to avoid the blows, mashing his face to bloody pulp and splintered bone. In the end, it had been the words of a traitor that had betrayed Fokron's refuge. One of those taken from the stratagem of the Unbreakable Might had known of another agent in Naval Command. That agent had been taken in turn, and his secrets ripped from his mind by a psyker. That information had been added to fragments gleaned from others, winding together to make a thread that had led to a system of dead planets in which the Hydra's eye hid. That it was the current refuge for Fokron was implied and confirmed by many sources once we knew where to look.
You were playing Minecraft today, did you have fun?
Once I had the location of Fokron's base, I ordered an immediate attack. The Hydra's eye was truly vast, an irregular star of fused void debris over 15 kilometres across at its widest point. Its hull was a patchwork skin of metal that wept glowing fluid as macro shells and lance strikes reduced its defences to molten slag. There had been enemy ships clustered around the irregular mass of the space fortress like lesser fish beside a deep-sea leviathan. Most had been pirate vessels, wolf packs of small, lightly armed craft. All died within minutes, their deaths scattering light across the jagged bulk of the Hydra's eye.
I fucking knew you were going to call me a molten slag. Fucking knew it.
Our guns went silent as a cloud of assault boats and attack craft swarmed towards the wounded fortress. I had not watched as Falkron's last means of escape died in fire. This was the end of my war, and I was ready to strike its last blow myself. When the first wave of attack craft swarmed towards the space fortress, I was there, my whole body wrapped in armour forged by the finest artisans of Mars. An animal is at its most dangerous when wounded and cornered. Falkron's followers did not fail to hammer this lesson home. The forces on the Hydra's Eye were a mixture of piratical scum and renegades, inducted into Falkron's inner circle. They spent their lives without thought, their only care being to make us pay many times over for each of them that we killed.
I have to say that phrase is overused in 40k lore, I have noticed. He said it 3 times already. If Lorehammer is taken, you should call it Molten Slag Reacts. No, I shouldn't. No, I shouldn't. I'm Harley IRL, and I have my Harley Hammer series. And you, Alpaca, are the Molten Slag.
I could see Falkron's vile genius in every tactic. Some hid in ceiling ducting or side passages, waiting for our forces to pass before attacking from behind. Others pulled guardsmen quietly into the dark, strangling them before taking their uniforms and equipment. Dressed as friends, the renegades would join our forces, waiting until the most advantageous moment to turn on the men beside them. The structure of the fortress itself spoke of a twisted foresight. Dead ends and hidden passages riddled the structure. Passages and junctions seemed to split and channel us, portioning our forces so that they became divided.
Alpaca, I hope not. I hope not. Alpaca is very dedicated to that meme. I feel there's a story to that. So, certainly, I'm gonna give you the lowdown on Alpaca. Alpaca is one of my Twitch mods. Alpaca is the trolliest of my Twitch mods, and that's coming from someone who has a mod in Dorian. Alpaca is my trolliest troll mod, but I love her, so I put up with it. You're just here to help? How are you here to help? You called me a molten slag twice. You're the only honest mod? How are you the only honest mod? You've called me a cockpit and a molten slag twice.
We had bodies enough to choke every passage. We would win.
She. Stern, I love you. I'm gonna delete that. Because it is she. She is cringe. That is correct. We want to be free. We want to be free and do what we want to do. And we want to party and have a good time. But no, she's cringe. But that's her whole vibe.
That was without doubt. But every inch cost blood. Those bloody steps had led me here to this chamber and this final battle. Yes, every step had cost blood. Every step for 100 years. From the mustering fields of Ephesia through the burning of Hespecia to here, where I will face my enemy for the last time. I am alone. The rest of the Imperial force lost behind me in the bloody tangle of the Hydra's Eye. So I will face my enemy alone. But perhaps that is as it should be. Falkron moves and cuts, his blow so quick and sudden that I have no chance to dodge. I raise my arm, feeling the armour synchronise with the movements of my ageing muscle. My fist meets his strike in a blaze of light.
It's okay. I just thought I'd make the statement. Don't worry, Sten. I like to correct people when I can, Purely because I don't want anyone to feel like I don't acknowledge that. You know what I mean? Like everyone's got their own pronouns. I'ma use them. That's why we have them in the disc. But yeah, don't worry. It was never. It's not something against you. I just correct people. And get loaded. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna have a party.
For a second, it is his strength against mine, the energies of weapons grinding against each other. I am looking into his face, so close that I can see the pattern of finer and finer scales on his faceplate. The deadlock lasts an eye blink. I fire my storm bolter a fraction of a second before he moves. The burst hits him in the chest at point-blank range and spins him onto the floor with the sound of cracking ceramite. I spray his struggling form with explosive rounds as he tries to rise. I take a step closer. A mistake. He is on his feet faster than I can blink, spinning past me. The tip of his sword glides over my left elbow as he moves. The energy field sheathing my fist vanishes. The power feeds severed with surgical care. I turn to follow him. His sword flicks out again, low and snake strike fast. The tip stabs through the back of my left knee.
Party, because I got it. Try to use they to be safe. It's okay. You is very cheeky, and she is also very cheeky.
Pain shoots up my leg an instant before it collapses under me. Tiles shatter under the impact. He is gone, moving into blind space behind me. I try to twist around, my targeting system searching. He is going to kill me, one cut at a time. Despite the pain, I smile to myself. The Alpha Legion do not simply kill. They bleed you bite by bite until you have no doubt of their superiority. But that pride is their weakness. A cut splits the elbow of my right arm. I do not even see where it comes from. Blood is running down my alabaster white armour and dribbling across the crushed tiles. My right arm is hanging loose at my side, but I hold on to my storm bolter through the pain. He walks into my view. There is a casual slowness to his movements. He has stripped me of my strength, crippled me, and now wants to look into my eyes as he kills me. He stops 2 paces from me and stares down at me with green eyes. The tip of the blade rises level with my face. His weight shifts as he prepares to ram the sword into my eye. This is the death stroke. It is the chance I have been waiting for. I bring my left arm round in a swing that hits him behind the left knee. The fist has no power field, but it is still a gauntlet of power armour, propelled by a layer of artificial muscles. It hits with a dry crack of fractured armour and bone. Focron falls, the hand gripping the knife splayed out to the side. I pull myself to my feet, gripping my storm bolter with the last of my strength. It does not take much. All I need to do is squeeze the trigger. Fired at point-blank range, the explosive round shred his arm. Before he can react, I move and squeeze the remainder of the storm bolter's clip into his left arm. He flounders in a pool of blood and armour fragments. I put my knee on his chest and grip the horns of his helmet with my left fist. Seals squeal and snap as I wrench the helmet from his head. For an instant, I expect to see the face of a monster that created me, that drove me to become what I am. But the face under the helm is that of a space marine, unscarred, dark eyes looking up at me from sharp features. He has a small tattoo of an eagle under his left eye. The ink faded to a dull green. I reach up and take my own helm off. The air smells of weapons fire and blood.
BAU to full. Sorry, I felt the need.
Focron, I say, for
I'm
your
in-
crimes
I'm engrossed, by the way. Give me a minute.
and heresies against the Imperium of mankind, I sentence you to death. He smiles. Yes, you have won. Focron will die this day. There is movement at the edge of my vision. I look up. There are figures watching me from the edges of the room. They wear blue armour. Some blank and unadorned, some etched with serpentine symbols, others hung with sigils of false gods. They look at me with green glowing eyes. Amongst them is a normal-sized man wrapped in a storm cloak, his face hidden by a silver mask. The image of a figure in a mask stood against the burning backdrop of Hesperia, and caught in muzzle flash on the unbreakable might flicks through my memory. The man steps forwards. His right hand is augmetic and holds a slender barreled needle pistol. There is a clicking purr of gears and pneumatics as the masked man walks towards me.
Heresi. Heresy. Ho ho, silver and away! I feel like Adam's just on one tonight. Let's go.
I start to rise. The masked man reaches up with his left hand and pulls the silver mask away. I look at him. He has no face. The needle dart hits the Inquisitor in his left eye, and the toxin kills him before he can gasp. He collapses slowly, the bulk of his armour hitting the tiled floor with a crash. We move quickly. We have only a few moments to secure our objective, and we can make no mistakes. The Inquisitor's armour is stripped from his body, piece by piece, the injuries he sustained noted as they are revealed. As the dead man is peeled from the armour, I remove my own gear and equipment, stripping down until there are two identical men, one dead and bleeding on the floor, the other standing while his half-brothers finish their work. My augmetics and every detail of my resculpted flesh match the man who lies dead before me. Years of subtle flesh-craft and conditioning mean that my voice is his voice. My every habit and movements are his. There is only the matter of the wounds that were carefully inflicted to injure but not kill. I do not cry out as my Legion brothers cut me, though the pain is nothing less than it was for him, the dead man whose face I wear. The wounds are the last details, and as the blood-slick Terminator armour covers my skin, all differences between the dead Inquisitor and I end. We are one, he and I.
Oh?
They take the Inquisitor's body away. It will burn in a plasma furnace to erase the last trace of this victory. For it is a victory. They take away our crippled brother, who was the last to play the role of Focron. A corpse is brought to take his place, its blue armour chewed by bolter rounds and crumpled by the blows of a power fist. A horned helmet hides his face, and a shimmering cloak hangs from his shoulders. This corpse is the final proof that the Imperium will require to believe they have won this day. Focron dead, killed by his nemesis, killed by me. The Imperium will see this day as their victory, but it is a lie. Focron never existed. His name and legend only extant in the mind of the Imperium.
Wait, you know this one, Stern? Like, this one's wild. This shit just got wild. And I get going stir crazy. I go stir crazy a lot. You know the vibe. But, like, it's okay. It's okay. Don't worry.
And the obsession of the man whose place I take. Focron existed only to create this last meeting. Many of the Legion were Focron, playing the role to create a legend that was a falsehood. I will walk from this chamber in victory, and my legend will grow. My influence and power will spread further. Decades of cultivation and provocation have led to this one moment of transformation. The moment we give the Imperium a victory and transform it into a lie. This is our truth, the core of our soul, the essence of our craft. We are the warriors unbound by the constraints of truth, assumption, or dogma. We are the reflection in the eternal mirror of war, ever-changing, unfixed, and invincible. We serve lies, and are their masters. We are their slaves, and they are our weapons. Weapons which can defeat any foe, break any fortress, grant one warrior victory against 10,000. I am the one who stands against many. I am Alpha Legion, and we are one.
Yo! Okay. Okay. So Alpha Legion has agents in the Inquisition, which has infiltrated the Alpha Legion, and vice versa. For the Emperor, man, I guess. That was wild. That was wild. Oh. But, like, Fokran doesn't exist, it's just a name. Like, alright. You know? I guess. Wild. Actually, I really enjoyed that. That was kind of fun to listen to. I know it took us 2 hours to listen to a 1 hour story, but I very much appreciated that you guys hung out with me. It was a lot of fun. I am going to say, for those who don't know, thank you to my royal patrons, my tier 3 supporter, my tier 2 royalty Izzo, and my tier 1 royalty Hansel Panda, Suki SJ, Sternly, Dan Cohen, Chaos 315, and Matt Ben. Y'all allow me to make my content sponsor free. I did it! I remember the shout out! I always do it, I just always have to come back to it, but I remembered today. But yeah, no, that was a lot of fun. I enjoyed the story. I'm sorry my stream died halfway through. But, you know what? It was a good day. The Alpha Legion got facial reconstruction surgery so he can kill and take place of the Inquisitor hunting him. Yeah. I realized that's insane. Like, actually insane. Such a cool concept. Like, it is. It is. And you know what? I'd probably do that too. I'm just saying. Like, why not? Like, hear me out. Hear me out. Why wouldn't you do that?
Thanks very much, everybody, for watching.
Hey! I was in the middle of talking. Why are you interrupting me? Calm down. But yes, I think that was very cool. And I really enjoyed the story. And you know what? I would probably listen to this guy tell more stories. I probably would. Arbiter Prince? Pretty cool of him. Pretty cool of him. Anyway, thank you all for coming in, guys. I will see you on Sunday for Space Sharks, and Thursday is still Hell's Reach. I know Harley Hammer didn't come out, there's a reason for it, you'll see next week. I am proud of you guys for getting through today, even more proud of you for getting through tomorrow. Ad Vidasen, Arrivederci, good as shoulders, LOA go. Peace! See you in the next one. Happy Valentine's!